Welcome to Conversations with Tom Shorkey. Conversations explores the past, the present, and the future of the communities in which we live through the eyes of interesting individuals. Now let's join our host, Tom Shorkey.
As we know in our area, both the revitalized Marine City, St. Clair with the inn under construction, there's a lot of new opportunities that have been cropping up for our citizens in this area. And with me today is a couple who decided they needed one more adventure in their life, and they have developed Mannina's Wine House in downtown St. Clair in the mall. Our guests today are Jim and Annette Meldrum. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
All right, before we even start, let's, now, you're familiar faces to anybody that's been part of St. Clair for the last 20 years. Your kids all went through the system here, and some athletes and some in other areas. But where did Jim Meldrum grow up?
I grew up in a town just south of here, Algonac. I lived down there my whole life. Then had a stint in the service and came back and met this young lady.
Ran into Annette from where? Where'd you grow up, Annette?
Warren.
What high school?
Cousino.
Warren Cousino. So somewhere along the way, a Warren Cousino grad meets an Algonac muskrat. You're going to offer muskrat at the wine house, right?
Yeah, well, there is a Moscato grape, but I don't know, that's close.
Not a relative. Anyway, so you ended up, coming out of the service or when you first got married, what kind of career things did you do, Jim?
To be honest, I started in the skills center right there in St. Clair
really?
When I was in high school. Did the 2-year welding program, was in the welding program, really, to make a long story short, ended up in the automotive and worked in the automotive for quite a long time, probably the better part of, I would say 15, 17 years. And in the early 2000s, you know, the automotive had a few up and downs, and we actually had a wood floor business, a small do everything, you know, delivery and installer and everything. And then met the family here in St. Clair and got into the software business, which is where I met another couple fellows. And so the last 10 years dealt in softwares and sales and things like this. So that's pretty much been the career, although her and I had the entrepreneurial spirit, if I said that right. That's something that I know she's wanted to do for a long time in St. Clair.
Well, and Annette, you're in the medical coding business?
Yes.
For our listeners at home, give us a 10-second rendition. What does medical coding mean?
Well, I read medical reports and I code them. It's part of billing. It's a part of the medical billing.
Do you work for hospitals or doctors?
Yes, I
or
work for large hospitals, and I work from home.
Which is good.
Yeah.
So somewhere between the software world that you were in, Jim, and in your medical coding, and you both kind of sounds to me like you had a little entrepreneurial yin, and came across the concept of a wine bar or Mannina's Wine House.
Mm-hmm.
Before we start, Jim, I want Annette to explain where'd your name come from.
Well, that was after my grandmother. Her name was Antoinette, which is how I got my name. And I always wanted to have something named Mannina's. I didn't know it was going to be wine house. For many years, just some sort of Italian bistro. I wasn't sure what it was, but I knew I wanted something named Mannina's, and with an Italian feel to it.
And were you like some wine snob from years ago or something, Jim? Why wine? I mean,
you know, the wine came about really, maybe it's a little trifecta. One, there was not a wine house or a wine, let's say, business type in our area. Two, or you could make it one, the St. Clair Inn is going to create opportunity for, I believe, quite a few different business opportunities in the area, especially with the flow of people. And then three, I had a friend of mine that was very much into the wine, you know, when we were just kind of talking about wine and doing some things, but our cousins own the winery in New Baltimore. And they had inquired kind of in these couple of areas. So that opportunity was there, and one thing really just led to another, and it was the choice that we made. It was no real, I'll be honest with you, passion for wine in the beginning, but the business opportunity led us to the wine. And again, we had some pretty good assistance and some good advice from them down there in New Baltimore.
Yeah, what's the name of the one in New Baltimore? What is it?
Washington Street.
Washington Street, yeah. It's a very cute little
It
shop
is,
right
yep.
there in that little refurbished downtown area.
Yeah.
How did you, was there a method in the madness to landing in the space that you are in the mall? Or were you looking for anything that was available? Or how did that happen?
When the idea came up that we wanted to open a wine house, actually Jim called me, and I was in California visiting a friend, and he said, what do you think about this idea? I'm like, that would be great. We could have fondue and some charcuterie boards, and it just started evolving. So when I came home, we started looking at different properties, thinking maybe we'd lease something. And this property came up. It was up for sale. And it just all kind of fell into place, and we really liked it, and we had a vision of what it could be. It was the right time. Everything just fell right into place.
Now, when you walk in and you have the brick wall, I mean, did you two have to redo that whole
It wasn't
area?
there.
It didn't. Was it? What was it before you guys were in there?
It was Body Wise. So it was a yoga,
Massage,
yoga
right?
massage.
Yes.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
So we had to basically reconfigure. That brick wall wasn't there.
Yeah.
Jim and my brother put that in, my son-in-law.
And maybe some wood floors too.
You know, we did woodwork for
Yeah.
sure around the place, but when we bought the building, it was finished.
Yeah.
It really was. It had
Yeah.
beautiful lighting, and it was nice. A lot of nice rooms. But of course, it didn't configure to what we had to use it for. We tried to utilize every square inch, you know, in the small space that we're in, and we pretty much redid the entire place.
Now, I believe our executive producer, Paul Dingman's in the back, and he's going to show some pictures from your website a little bit.
Okay.
But whether you drink wine or not, you've got to stop in the mall and walk into your place, because it really looks cool in there. And, you know, the tables and the way you have things set up. But the interesting item is, it's not just like a wine bar where you go in and you sip wine or have fondue or your different cheese plates or whatever, or desserts, which we'll talk about a little later. You actually have a retail element of selling your wines. Tell me about that a little bit.
You want to tell them about? Our license is a manufacturer's license. So what that means is we have to make a bottle. We have to control all of our product on site. But it also allows us to serve on site. They can sample on site. Matter of fact, you could come to Mannina's, drink a couple glasses of wine and still have part of your bottle left. And per our license, we can recork it and you can leave the premise.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, but a part that's growing, which maybe we haven't done a good enough job with as of yet, it surely is retail. Like right now, you come in, you buy 5 bottles of wine, we'll give you the 6th one free, and it's literally cash and carry. Now more and more folks are coming in just to buy their wine, say hello, and then they leave, which is fine. It's another aspect.
Yeah, I think it was confusing to people that you come in, it looks more like a restaurant or a bar. And although it is, it's still retail. You still could come and buy a bottle of wine to take home for Sunday dinner or for a gift. And we do have some gift items. We have a merchandise area that we intend to grow and have more merchandise, so a gift shop area that we're trying to build.
Now, and the other interesting aspect, I think, of the wine house is you make all of the wine that if anybody's going to sip it by the glass, or if they're going to take home a case or a half a case, 5 bottles get one free.
5 bottles get one free.
6 bottles get one free.
What?
6 buy 6 get one free.
I think it's buy 5 and get one free.
Oh.
That's what happens when husband and wives go into business.
Doesn't
together.
our bag hold 6, right?
It does, it does.
So you
it
buy
does.
5 and
So
we
you-
put the 6th one in.
You're right,
All right.
yeah. He's right.
I think you're both right.
That's the first time I've been right, by the way.
Okay.
Actually, he's
Been a
right.
long time.
Yep.
probably.
Somebody right.
All right. So, but all that wine, whether it's that 6-pack or whether it's people sitting there enjoying their friends and whatever, all the wine that you sell, you actually make behind that brick wall
Correct.
someplace.
Yes, sir. Correct. Correct. We have a supplier that we work with that well, let me see how I would explain this. So they have basically access to many regions and many different varieties of grapes. And what we do is we bring in all the standards, your Cabernets and your Chardonnays and all those. And then we have another option to bring them in from different regions like France, Italy, Spain, did I say Australia? Australia. And we know where they're getting them from when they were harvested. So you can get the timing, which hopefully brings consistency in the taste. Because we try to age that wine the same way we won't. Our goal is to never put it on the shelf
Consistency is key.
until you have a certain amount of aging. So with them, they're very consistent in being able to get us the grapes you need when you need them.
So when you get the grapes and say you're going to do a Chardonnay from Washington State or wherever, and you get your grapes, from the time they show up at the wine house, how long would it be before somebody's drinking Chardonnay from that batch?
Well, it's through the supplier. The grapes are to them. They do the processing and then send us.
They send us the raw
so
juices.
we're working with the juice and the concentrate but when you make a wine, it would be anywhere from, it could be 4 to 8 weeks that wine is going to ferment. It's going to do its thing to become the wine, right? And then if you have a sweet wine, you don't really have to have a lot of aging with it, the way the process is. So I would say that a white wine would take probably in the area of 3 months, 3 to 4 months. And a red wine could take as much as 6 months.
5 to 6.
So that's been one of the challenges and things. And our oldest daughter, Danielle, is so good with, she has her accounting degree, and she's so good with the charts and what we do and what we sell, because the timing's very important. If you come in and you like a Cabernet, I want you to be able to have the same Cabernet. Well, the only way to do that is to bring it through that aging the same way every time. So that's been a little bit of a
I would
learning.
think that would be tricky. I mean, it's like when you buy Budweiser, that bottle tastes the same as
That's
every
right.
other
Correct.
bottle. But
Yeah.
when you're home brewing in the back, I would think it could get
Well,
tricky.
as long as you're aging it consistent,
It's very consistent, is what I mean. I think that's what she's trying to say. Is it's very consistent as far as that timing. We've had time now to test. Well, what did it taste like after a month? Could we have served it?
Yeah.
To be honest, probably.
Yeah.
Through an aging, but there's a little bit more acidity. And not to get into the details, but we have, there are some people that are very educated in the world of wine. I'll be very honest, a lot more educated than I would be. We're getting more educated, but there are people that will come on and call you out on grapes and regions that are actually, I love talking with them because it's a mini science, but we just try to stay consistent.
All right, now how about the people who say, oh, geez, wine gives me a headache because of the sulfates?
we don't add sulfates. So
So that
they're not
should
going
be
to get a
good.
headache from our
The
wine.
stores, when you buy wine from Myers
Well,
or
sulfites are
whatever,
for
there's sulfides
Sulfite.
in them to prolong their shelf life, because
Mm-hmm.
that case of Menage a Trois could sit there for a year and a half.
Absolutely. You know, some of the not research, but reading, I'm not going to call it research, but just reading on how they do. A lot of that wine is not even delivered for a year.
Yeah.
The process that they go through in all the great wines that everybody drinks. But those sulfites have to be in there because you think about a bottle that you'll never have a 30-year-old bottle of Irvin James
Yeah.
the way we do it now. the red wine's going to last on the shelf for probably up to 2 years. And a white wine, we like to say maybe that's 1.5 years, and a sweet wine for 1 year. So ours is meant to consume. But the sulfites, a lot of times, is what gives folks that headache. I'll often question people, hey, let me know. And honestly, the feedback's been wonderful. I didn't have any headaches.
Yeah.
So that's part
Well,
of the
but you
bonus.
said 2 magic words that we haven't mentioned yet. Irving James. That's the name of your wine. So if somebody is coming into Mannina's Wine House, they're sipping Irving James or they're taking it home in a bottle. But how many different varieties of Irving James wines typically would you have available?
We have between 25 and 30 different varieties.
So any palate could be pleased.
You know, it really could. And what we'll probably do is you'll have seasonal. You know, there'll be seasonal things. There might be more of a variety of the sweets come spring and summertime. We're actually learning that a lot of people love sweet wine. You know, I'm not going to say that we got it wrong, but my son and I had to reevaluate, you know, the barrels in the process because we were so much on the Big Ten, meaning Cabernet and Pinot Noir and Chardonnay and Rieslings. And then we started to kind of look at what people were consuming. So that part we're learning. But there'll always be a specialty. You know, there's going to be ice wines, like we have ice wines now this winter. And, you know, so that part is the 25 to 30.
Give me the term ice wine. What's that mean?
I'll tell you, an ice wine is actually harvested after the first frost.
Oh, okay.
And again, it was something that we had to learn along the way. So the sugar content is a lot higher, which makes the alcohol a lot higher. So if you take a bottle of table wine, by law, our label has to say table wine is 11 to 14%. Well, an ice wine could be anywhere from 19 to 23%. But the flavor, it's a very, very good wine. And again, there's
sweet.
many folks that come in, do you have ice wine? There's a lot of people that are very aware of it. So that part we're still learning.
Oh, that's interesting. What's unique about Mannina's Wine House?
Well, I need to think about this. So, Mannina's Wine House is very different than anything we have around here. And one thing that we want to do is have jazz music. We want to do jazz, blues, something a little bit different than what's currently around. Jim and I love listening to jazz. We'll go down to Grosse Pointe or Detroit and hit some jazz bars. And we've always said, man, I wish there was something locally to listen to some jazz. So that's what we're doing. And I'll tell you what, it was hard to find jazz musicians, but I finally broke into the circuit, and we had our first jazz group there for our grand opening. It was Fifth Avenue, and they did a wonderful job. Everyone loved them, and now we have a lineup of different musicians coming in, and it'll be on our Facebook and our website of the bands and artists coming in. So we're hoping to really grow the jazz end of it too. Just hopefully we'll get more and more different artists and soloists and bands. And
sounds like a great idea. What's the biggest challenge when you go into a business like this? It's kind of new territory.
You can prepare and you can plan, and I'll admit that I'm not the best at that, honestly. To have my family and my wife and my daughters and my daughter-in-law and our Paula that works with us, you know, to have those young ladies in the organizational world is absolutely awesome. But it's the learning as you go. It's the unknown. It's the what happened last week adjustment. You know, we try not to ever make it drastic, but that is the biggest challenge. Again, when I talked about the wine, understanding the kind of wine that people are going to want or consume, and then you're changing. So I think that's really the biggest challenge, is the challenges that seem to be happening every week. You know,
figuring them out as
my fondue burners ended up being a challenge.
Yeah, that ended up being one of our biggest challenges,
you know,
the
just
fondue
because
burners.
I thought I had this style of one, and then we had this little issue. So, you know, again, it's fortunately, it seems to be just the small things, just the adjustments, you know, understanding the clients and what they want, or our.
I also think, though,
Well, go ahead.
that the other challenge is, you know, right now we do have a uniqueness to the area, and I just want, the challenge to me is to keep it that way. To when everybody walks into Mannina's, for it to always be just how it is now. The same atmosphere, the same feeling they get. So many people have said to me, when I'm in here, I feel like I'm somewhere else.
Cool.
And that's important, so I don't want to take that away from what we have.
Tell us a little bit about your fondue.
Well, we have 3 different kinds of fondue, and that took almost as long to perfect as the wine did, I would
Yeah.
say. We had a lot of nights where we had guinea pig friends over to try our fondues. But we have 3. We have a traditional fondue or classic, I call it Antoinette. We have a spicy fondue, and we have, it's kind of like your beer cheddar fondue, and that's my Giovanni, which was my dad.
Are all 3 of them cheese?
Oh yeah,
fondue?
we only do
okay.
cheese fondues.
I was asking about the chocolate fondues, but I haven't. We haven't mastered that one, but anyhow, I've asked for that more than once.
Who's been instrumental in your life? Who's been an influence for you folks along the way?
Well, for me, first and foremost, I would say my mom. I would say probably, and Jim would probably say your dad.
Well, I mean, I would think our parents. You know, the quick story was that I lost my mom when I was very, very young. So her mother ends up being an inspiration for both of us. You know, as far as just organized, doing the right thing all the time, she was always like that. My dad was the same way. Work ethic. You know, there's one thing that he did was get up, went to work every day, you know, treated people right and did the right thing. So, I mean, honest to goodness, I think our parents truly are our biggest inspirations.
Absolutely.
When I'm going to ask you to do a couple of commercials from just off the top of your head. And I want one of you to do just a 15, 20-second why somebody ought to stop in and see the wine house and partake. And the other because you've raised your kids here and they went through high school here, I want one of you to do a little 15 or 20-second bit about why it's great to live in this community or work in this community. Which one do you want to do, Annette?
I'll take the community.
Okay.
All right, so growing up, where I grew up in the suburbs, I wasn't familiar with the small town, and it took me a lot of years to get used to this way of life, I want to call it. It was really hard. Now, I couldn't have thought of anywhere better to raise my kids. I mean, from Algonac all the way up to Port Huron, the small town feel, the community, everybody knows everybody. It's just a wonderful place to raise your kids. And I never grew up by the water, and I think St. Clair is just an awesome place.
I think you did a great job. Give me a commercial for Mannina's Wine House, Jim.
Let's see. To come to Mannina's Wine House is to experience a new, unique business, a new, unique establishment. As far as age, that does not matter there. We've got Mannina has drawn such wonderful crowds, and the women's club. There's big enough tables to have groups. So you can book private parties. You can book tasting parties. You know, anything that they would like to have. We have very unique music. We have a very friendly atmosphere. Like I said, both retail and both in, what would I say, sit-in restaurant type.
Yeah.
And then also, it would be coming soon, we also have acquired the building next to us, and in the very near future, Mannina's may be just a bit bigger.
Great. But you still have to go down the street if you want a burger or a beer.
That's right.
Right, and there is great establishments in the mall, and that's what makes it very unique. You know, we have a relationship with Chris down there at Warwater, And now they can take a corking fee, and we give them a certificate. So we're working together in there, and just it's going to be a very, very good thing. It really is. This
With drifters there now too, so there's, you know.
And I've had the LaCroix twins on when they went, and we talked about the Riverside and then about drifters. Chris was one of my first guys when he first came to town. We've talked to Murphy's, the black and blue folks, and the interesting thing is everybody's saying there's enough business for everybody, and everybody's kind of got their niche. And when the inn comes in, this whole thing may blow up with all kinds of people. So it's kind of good to know that there's something a little unique down there in the mall.
Nobody wants just one or two or three places to go to. You want a variety. You might want to go to our place one day and down the road the next, and
I think the thriving community, it should be that way. If you and I went to Rochester and we, let's say, hung out or went out there for a weekend, it's wonderful to be able to go a few hundred yards or a little halfway across town and run into 6, 8, 10 unique places.
Yeah.
And I think the St. Clair Inn coming here, and what you hear, things are statistics and what have you. We need these places because, as of right now, we can have 50 people sitting in our place.
Did I hear that if my wife and I want to tour what's going on over at the inn, that you guys sign people up for tours or something? Or did I hear that, or was that just?
No, we did have a wine to inn tour,
okay.
and that was set up with Jeff Baum.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not. It wasn't our.
It wasn't your deal.
It wasn't my.
Okay.
I was.
No, but it's another neat link to the community with Jeff.
Yeah.
And I know that Jeff has worked and brought and introduced Jeff, the owner, from the inn. So that permission to allow people to come in, and it was great. At first we thought, oh, that sounds like a great idea. Well, we did it 2 different Saturdays, and the first one was a little bit short as far as letting people know, and maybe there was 20 people or so that went, and the second time there was 30-some people that went.
Really?
And so it was very exciting. Those kind of things are
Well,
just very, very neat.
It just lets the community kind of be involved in the new inn and see what's going on there and just feel kind of a part of it. So.
Sounds good. Well, for our audience at home, you've heard Jim and Annette talk about one of our newest features in town, and that's Mannina's Wine House, located in kind of the north end of the St. Clair Mall. And it is a unique spot. You can enjoy your glass of wine, your dessert, your fondues, a couple of different cheese boards, or you can take wine home with you by the bottle. And I think if you buy 5, you get the 6th one free, but we'll talk about it after we're off the air. On behalf of Channel 6 and Conversations, I'd like to thank both of you for being our guests today.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
You've been watching Conversations with Tom Shorkey. Conversations explores the past, the present, and the future of the communities in which we live through the eyes of interesting individuals. If you have an idea for a future conversation, please contact us at www.watchctv.org. Thanks for watching Conversations with Tom Shorkey.